So today we're going to talk about how we combined finances when we got married. For me personally, when I knew I was ready to get married, I saw marriage as a line that we crossed, meaning the old ways, the old single ways of doing money would no longer apply. Now that we are two people becoming one, I wanted that to also encompass the area of finances. And so for me personally, well, not just personally, but I think God also sees marriage in this way. I wanted our finances to be completely combined. Everything would be discussed, everything would be out in the open, no secrets, no his, her. To me, it just made the most sense too, because marriage means becoming one flesh. So it means becoming all in. I just didn't see finances as being treated any other way.
Yeah, I think when it comes to marriage, you want to share all areas of your life. It's not, I'm going to share this, but not this, and pick and choose what you want to share and what you don't share. And so, finances, I didn't know initially how important it was to be united and combined in that aspect, which you'll go into more.
So after we got married, one of the first things I did was add you onto my checking account. And so now we were joint account holders. And I also made you beneficiary on my retirement accounts. And one of the first decisions that we made, first financial decisions we made, was wanting to start off our marriage debt free. So I didn't bring any debt into the marriage. I had paid off my car and other things. I mean, really, it was just my car. But you did have some student loans. The first decision that we made is paying off your student loans with the help of the gifts that we got from our wedding. And it wasn't a small amount of money. It was in the tens of thousands of, of debt. But for me, it was just part of being married, is that there was no longer her debt or my income or her income. It was all of ours. So the moment we got married, I just treated her debt as if it was our debt. And because of that, and because we wanted to start off marriage debt free, within a week of getting married, we paid off your student loans just in one lump sum. So, do you remember that?
Yeah, I really felt, again, you didn't make me feel guilty for having debt. It was just a matter of fact thing to do. And even though the money was technically our money, our gift money, it was still a gift money for both of us. And how I wish I didn't have that debt so that we could use that gift towards doing other things with that as we started our marriage. But I think it really spoke to me that you decided to use that towards paying off the debt that I had.
This is a whole nother episode, but my own personal journey with debt, both with dealing with my student loans, not only my student loans, but my parents' student loans that they took out for me and my brother, really shaped my attitude towards debt. It was such a weight on me throughout my 20s that I did not want to have that weight on us as we started our marriage. I just wanted for us to start with a clean slate and just not have anything from our past linger for years and years and years. One of the other things that we did after we got married was we operated with a budget. Now, what a budget for me was, and this is obviously something that we talked about and still are talking about six years into marriage, is that a budget is really just an agreement. It's an agreement that says we're going to be spending X amount of dollars for different areas of our life, which could be food, household items, things for our baby. We have a 2.5-year-old, just different areas, and just agreeing that this is the amount of money that we're going to be spending this much this month on this item. What was it like operating with the budget with me in those early years?
Yeah, as you have mentioned before, this may be a separate video, but we both had and maybe even still have different philosophies and approach to money because of our own histories. So I will say that and admit that actually part of that debt wasn't only student loans. I also accrued a lot of credit card debt. The reason why I had to draw out more student loans was because I had credit card debt.
Right. She essentially refinanced her credit card debt using student loans because student loans obviously had a lower interest rate than the credit cards.
Right, right. And as you can probably already tell, James is a saver, whereas I am a spender. And again, I approach money this way. I don't want to just blame it all on my history and not having learned about money, but I think I have a more carefree approach to money where I'm like, oh, God will provide. But I will also say that I did also impulsively spend, thinking that I would be able to pay for it eventually. But having that mentality is what accrues debt. So having a budget was very, very hard. And we got into a lot of arguments initially because at first it felt so restrictive to me. And it took time for me to really understand and experience the benefit of having a budget. And as you mentioned, a budget is an agreement that we come to together. So I just have to continue to remind myself of that because sometimes I feel I can interpret a budget as like a restriction rather than it's the freedom too, right? To be able to save.
Honestly, for me as a saver, you might think that having a budget just means that I naturally operate under really tight restrictions. And frankly, like in my 20s, I did. I didn't spend a lot of money. And so I didn't feel free with money at all. When so many years were spent paying on other people's debt, it felt like a lot of this money that should have been mine was gone. And so I naturally wanted to keep as much as I could. But the budget for me, honestly, has helped me feel more free because otherwise I would have just seen anything that we would spend on as a mound of money that was just piling up, that was just going away, right? Whereas with a budget, I can see that money being spent on groceries is very different from money being spent on the baby or on the home or on something medical related. So having these categories for me has made me feel a lot more free when it comes to spending money. A lot of the reason why some people might keep separate accounts is because they like the idea of having your money and my money to spend without the other person knowing. So how do we handle that?
So we have a category called fun money, James's fun money, and then my fun money. My fun money is pretty much doubled his.
4 times as much.
He barely uses
I don't like
fun money.
Yeah, I just don't like using it. Again, even though I am free to, I end up just not really using it much at all.
And as a spender, I feel like it's not enough and want to dip into other areas, which we had to come to terms together, right?
Yeah.
Because I would feel as though, oh, the baby in the home, I can use that to get the decor I want or the cute baby clothes. And again, it's not that I can't, but I've learned that James really likes it when we still discuss these purchases together. So if it's my fun money, then he won't ask about it as much. But if it's categories that are even baby or home, I do not have like the full freedom to just, get whatever I want. Because I say, oh, this is for the baby, so I'm just gonna get this, this, and this. He really wants to discuss it and determine whether or not this thing that I'm getting for the baby is needed and worth it. So it's still hard for me, to be honest, because I still feel like I want him to trust me in the decisions that I make. And we have had a recent discussion / argument about that. But I think that we have come to an agreement that, yeah, it is still the best, because I do tend to gravitate towards purchases that are more a want than a need. So when need things come up, we do need to have room in the budget in that category. So
Yeah, for example,
yeah,
like
diapers
a whole
versus
new wardrobe for the baby
right
versus a box of diapers.
Yeah.
Like there's a clear need versus want there. And to be fair, a lot of her purchases, I would say like the vast majority of her purchases, are things that I didn't think we needed, but we actually do need. That's just been an eye-opening experience for me too, that when I question the purchases that she makes, she can take that as me not trusting her. I don't want to give that impression to her. For me, I think I just want transparency and agreement and communication on these categories that are not just purely our fun money. Even though we might gravitate towards wanting to buy things in that category, when it comes to things like home things or baby things, we still need to communicate.
And I will say having a budget has helped me to really do more research, and be so much more thoughtful about my purchases. Because if I just got to buy whatever I want, which I did initially, he would joke, oh, your fun money is the baby category and the home category.
And your fun money.
And right, that's what I'm saying. In addition to my fun money. And I think I was a lot quicker to make purchases versus now, because I do want to respect and consider like how useful is this. I've become a smarter shopper in that way, where I do so much more research, and I also want to gain your trust that I'm not just getting these things just because it was an emotional purchase,
right.
But it is a thoughtful purchase. And I have mentioned to James in our recent argument where I let him...
We can do an entire video. In fact, we should probably do another video on the top money fights that we've had.
Yeah. But I let him know too that sometimes I will want to buy our daughter a cute sweater that is unreasonably more expensive than, because I will say I tend to look on like Facebook Marketplace to see if I could get this cute cardigan for $10 versus, let's say, $60 at a store. But I did let him know that sometimes I do want to be able to do that without being scrutinized, because this isn't absolutely necessary. But again, it's just made me a more thoughtful shopper. And I do agree that, yeah, some purchases are more necessary than others.
And one of the things I honestly am jealous about is how freely she can buy things. Like a lot of the reasons why my fun money just doesn't get spent is because I think about, do I really need this? Like, do I really, 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 really need this? And then I just end up not buying it. And then I sometimes ask Isabel, like, should I get this? And her response is always like, yeah, I mean, it's your fun money. Like you can get it. But for me, it's like fun and money. That doesn't. For me, fun is like saving money and buying or buying like index funds and investing, which is that's going to be a whole nother episode. That to me is fun. But to spend it on something, I mean, I don't want to say frivolous, but just because I want it is still very, I guess the only word I can say is,
Difficult.
yeah, it's difficult and it's emotional. It's just something that I wish that I had more of and not feel so suffocated by the decision on whether I want something or not. And when I look at, I mean, we're filming in our living room, and I see our kitchen. Like I see all these things that bring such joy to us and to our daughter. I'm like, man, if I was just purely in control, we would be living in like we'd be living in like a cell, a prison cell. So yeah, so I'm very, very grateful that she does get the things that we need and want.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you
Well,
felt
I've told
that
you
way.
before that like I'm very jealous about how you can just freely spend money. It's just a very freeing, and it seems so fun.
Well, I hope that you can get there.
Yeah, I bet you do. So with budgeting and communication and discussing all the things that are involved with money, what are the effects of this? Well, it's less that operating off of budget, combining our finances has made us become something. It's more the other way around. It's that we became something, and therefore we felt the need and the desire to communicate about these things, to make things transparent, and just be open about all of these things.
I think you mentioned such a good point, which is it's an area of communication.
Yeah.
And communication is so important in marriage. And finances, let's be real, it's a big part of our lives. And if we're not going to be fully transparent in that area of our life, then we are lacking communication.
Right.
And so I think that, I know we joked about it, but with the budget and feeling like it felt restrictive at first. But I realized more and more how you just value communication that much more. And I do too. Like, I wouldn't want you to have your own bank account where I don't know what you're spending it on. And same, right? It's just a very clear way of being transparent and communicating to one another, and also helping us to come together in agreement about something. So it's like a way of practicing that unity and practicing how to make hard decisions together.
Right. Right.
And stick to those decisions together.
Yeah. And it also talks about in the Bible about how where you spend money is where your heart is. Well, if we're now one flesh and operating as a unit, our hearts need to be aligned as well. And so money is naturally a part of that conversation, of that process of merging, of two becoming one. And it's a constant process. Like it's not like because we have a budget, and we've already mentioned it, we still have arguments about money. But it's not. But the arguments are not like, where did all this money go? You have an account that I don't know about, or any of those kinds of things. It's more about how are we going to spend the money that we know we need to spend? Where are areas like this month that might be different from next month? And how should we adjust the budget knowing that, well, like for instance, Christmas, like we know, if we know that Christmas is coming up, shouldn't our budget change? And as somebody that doesn't really like change, that can be kind of tough for me to adjust to, but we have to adjust.
And it's not like we have it figured out yet. We're still learning. We're still growing in learning to communicate more.
Yeah. So what are some common reasons why married couples might not combine finances? Well, as Isabel and I were discussing this, a lot of it boils down to trust, and perhaps not fully trusting the other in terms of what's mine. Like, I don't want to entrust you with what's mine. But as Christians, we believe, again, that marriage means becoming one new thing. And so there's no more his and her money. It's our money.
Mhm.
So you can't be all in yet separate.
Yeah.
At least in from what I can tell from what the Bible says. So to me, it really doesn't make sense for a married couple to have split finances. Like I've heard stories of married couples just operating like roommates, like she has a checking account and the money that she makes goes into that account, the money that he makes goes into his account. And then when they pay for joint things like the mortgage or groceries, they like Venmo each other. And that just feels so weird to me. So that's one extreme, right? And then getting kind of closer to what we do, which is completely combining a lot of things, but just still having a separate account. And I've also heard stories about, especially on the women's side, that the woman keeps some money, I don't want to say hidden, or maybe it is hidden, but just separate from the combined accounts, because just in case they separate, divorce, whatever, that she still has something that's hers. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think just biblically speaking, again, as a couple that does want to follow Christ and biblical principles that he lays out in marriage, it's about serving each other, right? Like marriage is about serving each other, and that mentality of I need to protect my assets and I need to protect what's mine. It's not a very serving heart, right? It's coming from again, like self-preservation motivation. And so I think that there's just something there, and again, maybe something deeper there, the fear of completely being able to surrender yourself to the other person.
Yeah.
And being like, hey, if you're destitute or if you're not in good condition, I will be there for you to do this, right? Versus like, oh, I need to have mine just in case something bad happens and I don't have anything left, right? It's like a very different heart that you're going into.
Right. I've also heard, and this kind of goes into the trust thing, about stories of, well, the other person has a lot of debt, or the other person is bad at managing money. Well, when you're married, their problems become your problems. It becomes our problem to tackle. As a married couple, we're supposed to be, like you were saying, uplifting one another, strengthening one another, and to hold somebody at fault for what they bring into the marriage, it still keeps that wedge in between the married couple, and it really prevents you from being all in, not just in finances, but probably in other areas too. Like, for example, and we just talked about your student loan debt. In an alternate reality, I could have seen your debt as like, oh my God, this is like, it just reminds me so much of my experience paying debt. You got to take care of this on your own, and then we'll combine finances. Or maybe we won't, not even, but this is yours and you got to clean that up. That thought never really entered into my head, because I understood that marriage was a decision. It was an all-in decision. And so I actually used the experiences of me paying debt, and I drew upon that experience to tackle this debt. And luckily, we had the funds to do it from the wedding, from the gifts that we got from our wedding, and we're able to just wipe it clean. Yeah, it's just about strengthening one another, uplifting, and just understanding each other and the things that we bring into the marriage, rather than viewing the other person's history or attitudes towards money as them. Here's my thing, here's your thing, and we're not going to keep that. We're not going to merge those.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of how important it is in the dating phase. Well, maybe not so much dating, but as you're getting more serious in your dating too. But as you are getting more serious in your relationship, to be transparent about finances, like your history, your approach to money, how much debt you have, things like that. Because if you don't talk about that and you're married, and then it's like, and then what, right? It's like surprise. And that's where I think a lot of problems happen. Being able to really talk about that at the beginning or early on in your serious dating relationship is so important.
Yeah, very, very important.
We didn't really do that I think, or did we? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, we did.
Okay.
You might not remember the money conversations, but I did. I don't know if you remember, but I told you exactly how much I made. You told me how much you made.
Oh, really? I don't think I remember you telling me how much you made.
I remember.
Okay.
I remember where we were. Yeah.
Okay.
So this, see, when it comes to money, just this is different attitudes, right? Right. I remember, and then the whole reason why we had the idea, or I had the idea of refinancing your credit card debt with student loans was because we were talking about, how much debt you had. And even though we weren't married at the time, we didn't merge anything before we got married. I just gave you my thoughts on what would be the best course of action. Yeah, knowing that before we got married meant that, like you said, no surprises. I knew exactly what we were both getting into and what we were bringing into the marriage. Yeah. So we just got rid of it.
Yeah. And again, this could be a separate video, many separate videos, right?
Yeah.
But I think beneath the money stuff, right, there's just so much there. So
Yeah.
if someone has, debt problems or spending problems, there's more there than just what you're seeing. So
Yeah, and you should know that Isabel is a mental health counselor. So the visible problems usually tie into deeper problems. So, well, stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks.